Welcome back to Nerding in English. We are so pumped you're joining us again today.
Absolutely. This is our space to just relax, practice English naturally, and nerd out together over the stories we absolutely love.
And today, we're picking up right where we left off.
Exactly. At the end of our last explainer, the Fellowship had completely broken apart. Boromir fell, Merry and Pippin were taken by the enemy, and Frodo and Sam had to strike out on their own toward Mordor. So now we're following three very different, very dangerous journeys all at once. We've got Frodo and Sam dealing with Gollum, Aragorn riding with the people of Rohan, and Merry and Pippin meeting the ancient tree shepherds.
But actually, we jump straight back into the sheer danger of the first part of our story. We're thrown right into Gandalf falling into that massive dark abyss with the terrifying Balrog. It's just an epic, breathtaking struggle. They plunge deep into the darkness, fighting fiercely through the air. Gandalf is just relentlessly striking the monster with his sword as they fall through fire, eventually crashing into this deep, freezing water far below the earth. He literally fights until his last breath to throw the burning monster down upon the mountaintop. And then, suddenly, Frodo wakes up from this intense vision. It was just a dream, but his waking reality is a total nightmare. Oh, for sure. He and Sam are completely lost. They're stuck in this harsh, impossible maze of razor-sharp rocks right near the edge of Mordor. And to make matters worse, Frodo can literally feel the ring getting heavier. It's becoming a terrible burden on him, constantly weighing down his mind and his physical body. As they try to get some sleep, they're suddenly attacked in the night by the creature who's been quietly following them all along, Gollum. He is desperately trying to steal the ring back, but Sam and Frodo manage to fight him off and tie him up. Gollum cries out in pain, absolutely hating the rough elven rope around his neck. Sam just wants to leave him behind, which is totally understandable, but Frodo looks at this ruined creature and actually feels pity for him. He unties him, and in return, Gollum swears to guide them safely to the Black Gate of Mordor. Meanwhile, far across the world, Merry and Pippin are being carried away by a vicious group of Uruk-hai, but their friends haven't given up on them. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli are chasing them on foot. They run relentlessly for 3 straight days across the vast, wide plains of Rohan, tracking the enemy's footprints. It is exhausting work. Gimli is really struggling to keep up with the man and the elf, breathing heavily, but he jokingly claims that dwarves are natural sprinters, very dangerous over short distances. While they're running, we see that the danger in this land is growing incredibly fast. Saruman the White has officially joined his power with Sauron, creating the union of the two towers. Saruman is a massive threat here because he is completely transforming his environment. He's actively tearing down the ancient, beautiful trees around his fortress to feed his fires. Isengard changes from a place of green life into this dark, smoky pit of industry. He is building a massive war machine, forging armor and swords to completely destroy the world of men. And Saruman's dark influence is also reaching directly into the kingdom of Rohan. He's actively poisoning the mind of Rohan's king, Théoden, using a spy named Grima. Because of Grima's lies, the king just sits there on his throne, weak and confused. Meanwhile, anyone loyal to Rohan, like the fierce cavalry commander Éomer, is unfairly punished and forced into exile, taking his best riders with him. It is a heartbreaking situation. This is also where we meet the king's niece, Éowyn. She is incredibly brave, but she admits her greatest fear isn't dying in battle, it's being trapped in a cage. And right now, her own kingdom feels exactly like one. Back on the trail, Merry and Pippin's captors are actually attacked in the night by those same exiled riders of Rohan. The hobbits use the chaos to cut their ropes and escape into the dark, mysterious Fangorn forest. And as they hide, the forest literally comes alive. They are scooped up by Treebeard, a massive, ancient walking tree known as an Ent. Treebeard is a shepherd of the forest. At first, he thinks the small hobbits are tiny orcs, but he soon realizes they are something entirely new, and he promises to keep them safe in his deep woods. Back on the path to Mordor, Gollum is carefully guiding Frodo and Sam through a terrifying, misty swamp called the Dead Marshes. It is so creepy. Under the water lay the preserved, ghostly faces of warriors who died long ago. Gollum warns them not to follow the mysterious floating lights, keeping them safe from the water's trap. During this dark journey, Frodo speaks to Gollum gently. He calls him by his forgotten true name, Smeagol. Hearing this name brings a sudden flash of light and memory into the creature's sad eyes.
Over in Fangorn Forest, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli have tracked the hobbits' footprints. They're expecting danger, but instead, they are blinded by this brilliant, pure light. It's Gandalf, but he is no longer Gandalf the Grey. He has returned from his epic battle with the Balrog as Gandalf the White, holding incredible new power. Their joy is just immense. Gandalf tells them the hobbits are safe, and then he summons the great wild horse Shadowfax. Together, they ride fast across the plains to save Rohan.
Arriving at the Golden Hall of Edoras, they find King Théoden looking old, gray, and completely lifeless. Gandalf steps forward and uses his powerful light to break Saruman's dark grip. The king is under a terrible spell, but Gandalf forces Saruman right out of his mind. Théoden breathes the free air again and remembers who he is. But his awakening brings immediate heartbreak, as he learns that his only son died in battle while he was poisoned by the magic. Far away, Frodo and Sam finally look down upon the terrifying Black Gate of Mordor. It's massive, made of iron, and surrounded by thousands of marching enemy soldiers. Frodo actually wants to rush in, which is totally reckless, but Gollum pulls him back in a complete panic. He knows they'll be caught, and the ring will be taken. Gollum insists the gate is impossible to cross. Instead, he promises there's another way in, a secret, darker path that involves a winding stair and a hidden tunnel. Frodo decides to trust him. Back in Rohan, King Théoden decides the city is no longer safe. He leads all his people, the women and children, toward the great stone fortress of Helm's Deep. But on the road, they are suddenly ambushed by Saruman's vicious warg riders. These are giant, terrifying, wolf-like monsters carrying orcs. It's a fierce, chaotic battle to protect the fleeing villagers. During the fight, Aragorn's leg gets caught and he is violently dragged off a high cliff, falling deep into a raging rocky river below. On their secret path, we see something amazing. Gollum actually argues with himself. The good Smeagol fights back against the hateful Gollum personality, and for a beautiful moment, he actually wins. He tells his dark side to leave and never come back. Smeagol is so happy he catches some rabbits, which leads to Sam famously making a stew and talking about how much he misses potatoes. Boil 'em, mash 'em to stick 'em in a stew. It's a great lighthearted moment, but it doesn't last. Their peace is shattered when they are suddenly surrounded and captured by the Rangers of Gondor, led by a captain named Faramir. Meanwhile, at Isengard, Saruman's terrifying vision is finally complete. He steps onto his balcony with Grima to look down at his creation. Below them stands an unimaginably massive army. Tens of thousands of armored, angry Uruk-hai soldiers standing in perfect, terrifying formation. Saruman unleashes them with a single chilling order. He tells them to march to Helm's Deep, destroy the world of men, and leave absolutely no one alive. At Helm's Deep, hope seems completely lost until Aragorn miraculously rides through the gates. He survived the river and warns the king about the massive army heading their way. The refugees prepare for a desperate fight. Young boys and old men are given heavy swords and shields. You can feel the fear everywhere in the cold stone fortress. But then, in the dark of night, a horn sounds. An army of elves marches into the fortress. They have come to honor an ancient alliance, standing together with men in the face of great evil. The rain begins to pour heavily into the valley. The ground literally shakes as the endless sea of Saruman's Uruk-hai army marches right up to the walls of the fortress. Even in this terrifying moment, friendship remains. Gimli cannot see over the high stone wall, and Legolas gently jokes about finding the dwarf a box to stand on. An accidental arrow is fired. The enemy roars in anger and charges. King Théoden looks down at the madness and simply says, "So it begins." The battle is incredibly brutal. Legolas and Gimli even start a friendly competition to see who can take down the most enemies, trying to keep their spirits up. But the defense completely falls apart when Saruman's plan is revealed. His soldiers place a devastating explosive device in a weak spot at the bottom of the wall. A massive explosion blows a huge hole in the solid rock. The enemy floods through the gap. This is a desperate siege, and the defenders are rapidly losing ground. The main gate of the fortress is being broken down. Aragorn and Gimli sneak out a side door to surprise the enemies attacking the door. But there is a gap they must jump, and Gimli knows he cannot make the leap. In a truly funny and desperate moment, he asks Aragorn to just toss him, adding, "Just don't tell the elf." Aragorn throws him right into the fray, and they fight fiercely to hold the shattered gate. But the sheer numbers of the enemy are slowly overrunning the keep. While the men fight for their lives, Treebeard carries Merry and Pippin to the edge of his forest. And he stops in complete horror. He sees that Saruman has chopped down and burned thousands of his beautiful ancient trees. Filled with anger, Treebeard calls the other Ents, and they march to war. Saruman's fall begins when the forest he ignored finally answers back. The giant Ents smash the stone dam, sending a massive flood of rushing water crashing down into Isengard, destroying all of his machines. Back at Helm's Deep, the inner hall is surrounded. Théoden feels pure despair, but Aragorn convinces him to ride out and meet the enemy one last time. They burst out of the doors on horseback, charging into the endless crowd of enemies. And just as they do, they look to the east. Gandalf arrives right at dawn. He brings Omer and 2,000 riders of Rohan. They charge down the steep hill, blinding the enemy with sunlight, and finally break Saruman's army. Meanwhile, Faramir has dragged Frodo and Sam to the ruined city of Osgiliath. The ring is pulling heavily on Frodo's mind, nearly causing him to attack his best friend. Sam pulls him back from the darkness. He gives this beautiful, emotional speech about why the great stories matter, even when the world feels full of fear and danger. He tells Frodo that the heroes in those stories had chances to turn back, but they didn't, because they were holding on to something. As he says, there's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting for. Faramir listens quietly to Sam's brave words. He sees the heavy burden Frodo carries and finally understands the true danger of the ring. Instead of taking the ring to his father, Faramir shows incredible mercy. He could have easily kept them captured, but he chooses kindness instead. He releases the hobbits, knowing his own life might be at risk for doing it. Because, as Gandalf warns far away, the battle for Helm's Deep is over, but the true battle for Middle-earth is only just beginning. Walking back into the wild, Frodo tells Sam that he wouldn't have gotten far without Samwise the Brave. Sam smiles, realizing they are inside a great story of their own. But their guide, Smeagol, feels deeply betrayed by the caption in Osgiliath. While the hobbits talk, Smeagol's darker Gollum personality returns in full force. Gollum whispers a sinister plan. He won't kill the hobbits himself. Instead, he will lead them into a mysterious, dark tunnel where a terrifying creature he only calls she will deal with them. The path ahead of them is completely dark, incredibly dangerous, and entirely unknown. As we finish this chapter of the story, we want to leave you with 3 questions to think about. First, why do some stories stay with us long after the danger is over? Second, what keeps Frodo and Sam going when the journey feels so impossible? And finally, can hope survive even when the world looks completely lost? The journey is far from over, and the final greatest battle is still to come. Thank you so much for joining us for Nerding in English. We hope you enjoyed exploring this incredible story with us. Keep practicing your English, keep your curiosity alive, and we will see you next time for the grand finale.